Medical technology has gotten crazy over time, right? The stuff that people can do to extend life now is nuts. Back in the day, simple things like foodborne illnesses and improper knowledge of medicine and nutrition killed thousands of people. Controlling of diseases before, we barely know how to control diseases now. But just to think that we've come so far in advancement and things can still go wrong. My mom recently had a back surgery and she's in more pain than she was before the surgery. She's investigating it right now and trying to figure out what's going on. Who best to tell her than the doctors? But at the same time, I can't help but think that sometimes people that perform services are salespeople for those services. And sometimes you can get convinced that maybe you do need something that you really don't. At other times, you really do need something. And one of those things might be a transplant. They can take an organ out of someone and put it in your body, and you'll hope that it takes and adapt. Things like kidneys or your heart. Can you imagine how traumatic that has to be? Having to get a transplant of an organ? I can't, man. I can't. I've been blessed not to ever have to worry about any health conditions like that. And I hope and pray that it never happens to me or anybody that I know. But it's a real thing and it happens all the time. I can only imagine if something would go wrong with that procedure when you get a glimpse of hope and all of a sudden something happens. We're going to react to a horror story today from MJV Animations about somebody's heart transplant that didn't go as planned. Make sure to head on over to their channel. Click the subscribe, guys. Click the notification bell. And if you like reaction videos, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. Let's get into the reaction. Something went wrong with my heart transplant.
I've always had a weak heart. Not physically.
Okay.
I've always been afraid of my own shadow.
Oh.
It was unsurprising when the doctors told me my heart murmur wasn't just a heart murmur. A year of tests, a year of therapy, constant trips to the hospital, and I was finally told that it had all been for nothing. My poor weak heart wouldn't last till Christmas.
Wow.
It's a strange thing being told that you're dying. I didn't come to terms with it at first. I drank, and I spent my money. I did reckless, stupid things because I was so damn scared.
I can't really wrap my mind around what I would do if I was told that I would die. I have family and friends that I would, want to spend time with before that happens. But it's hard to rationalize what you'd actually feel in those moments. As someone that, on the outside, watching a person that you loved go through something like that, naturally you would try to want to spend time with them. But I'm sure some people do get quite reckless and selfish when it comes down to that, because if you think that inevitably there's nothing that can fix you and it's going to happen anyway, then why not just get the bucket list done, Go ham, go crazy. I don't know. Hard to say. What would you do?
Then I got the news that a young woman called Laura had been declared brain dead, and that I, the lucky chosen one, would be getting a brand new heart a week later.
Weird.
I drove to the hospital slowly, carefully,
and
readied myself for the ordeal that was to come. As I was lying in bed on the last night, the thought of Laura swirled around in my head, and it wouldn't leave me alone.
I don't know if this is going where I think it's going, but I think I've seen movies before that have kind of told the tale about someone getting an organ from another person and feeling a part of their consciousness transferred to them, like voices and memories that weren't their own, that supposedly belonged to these other people. Thinking about that is really, really terrifying. I gotta say, man, not having any friends around her or family, she has got to be losing her mind thinking about this too.
It was like her name was in flashing lights every time I closed my eyes. It was wrong. I know it was. But I had to see the woman who was giving me her heart.
Okay.
It didn't feel right not to put a face to the one who was saving my life.
Right.
I knew her name. I knew what ward she was staying on. I had overheard the two nurses discussing it. I wandered down the meandering hallways until I found what I was looking for,
She was brain dead
taking my
too, right?
time, making sure I didn't miss any name.
Okay.
I guess I had time on my hands now. In the second to last room, she lay in bed. A woman sat on the bed next to her, holding her hand,
Wow.
and my own weak heart stuttered.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I had no idea what to say to her. I'm Jenna. I'm the person. I'm having surgery tomorrow, and what I assumed was Laura's mother stood up,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell from the look in her eye that she knew who I was.
Right.
Thank you for visiting. I know it's strange, but a part of her is going to be living on in you. I wanted to meet you. I stood there, helpless and lost for words.
Right.
Laura's mother beckoned me over. Please, she said. Don't feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's what she would have wanted. I sat
Right.
on the chair next to Laura. How did she... I broke off. It was too awful to ask.
Yeah.
Laura's mother gave me a thin smile. She was a care worker, looked after battered wives, abused women. Last month, she met a
Wow.
guy and, well, I suppose years of training can't help you when you're in love. She
Okay.
ignored the warning signs, and he killed her.
Oh no.
She dedicated her life to those who needed her. Laura's mother looked down.
Wow, dude.
I don't know why I did it, but I reached over and held Laura's hand.
Well, it's compassion.
I squeezed it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I had a boyfriend once who... He was like that too. Someone like Laura convinced me to leave.
Dang.
Laura's mother gave me another half smile. I could see the tears in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Then Laura squeezed my hand,
Right.
tightly.
Oh.
She gripped me so hard that her fingernails dug into my skin.
Wow.
I recoiled, a look of horror on my face. Laura's mother looked at me calmly. She squeezes my hand sometimes as well. I think the doctors called it muscle spasms. Either way, there's none of Laura left in there anymore. I looked at the small crescent moons that had just started to bleed on the palm of my hand.
Dang.
The surgery went perfectly.
Right.
I was wheeled to the recovery suite after it was over and done with, the raised wound on my chest covered by gauze. It was better if I didn't see it, I thought.
Right.
I didn't need any more heart issues.
Yeah.
I spent the first day doped up on the pain medication,
Sure.
eating only a little and
Yeah.
sitting up maybe 2 times. It was a long process.
It's a
they
major
reassured
surgery,
me.
man.
Laura's mother came to visit me the day before I was due to leave.
Wow.
Her calm demeanor hadn't wavered, but I could see that she was suffering.
Yeah.
She looked 10 years older.
She
and
lost
her
her
hand
baby.
shook when she gave me a hug. When are you going home? Tomorrow, I told her. Please, come visit whenever you want. I started to jot down my address for her,
Mhm.
when out of the corner of my eye, a flash of blonde disappeared through the doorway. The same brilliant blonde as Laura's hair. Ow! I cried out suddenly. It felt like someone had sharply squeezed my hand so hard it had almost crushed the bones. Laura's mother rushed to my side, a look of concern in her eyes. What's wrong? Is it your heart? She stumbled over the last words, coming to terms with what she had said. I tried to reassure her and said I'd let the doctors know, and she left with a look of worry on her face.
Wow.
When I looked down, a new set of crescent fingernail marks were below the ones that Laura's had made. 10 identical bleeding smiles.
What the hell?
The taxi ride home was short, and before I knew it, I was back in my own flat.
Mm-hmm.
It felt strange to try and slot back into where I had left off. My life had been almost over the last time I had been here.
Yeah.
I looked over the mess and the cardboard boxes, the remnants of one night where I had tearfully tried to pack and store my belongings so my parents wouldn't have to do it when I died.
Wow.
Laura's heart beat so strongly, it felt like it would come out of my chest. It did this all the time, and I realized this was what a healthy heart must feel like. So why couldn't I shake my feelings of unease? That night, I had a dream.
Okay.
Laura was in her hospital bed, and her mother was gone.
Right.
I could hear my heart, Laura's heart, beating in my eardrum so loudly it was painful. I tried to cover them, but my hands were pinned to my sides.
Wow.
Some unexplainable force was moving towards the motionless figure of Laura on the bed. Her lips were blue, and the window had come open, whipping her blonde hair around her face. I was almost on top of her when her eyes flew open. They were milky white, the eyes of someone dead. "Get out!" she rasped, her voice guttural. I could hear the heartbeat faster and faster, drumming until I thought I couldn't take it anymore.
Bruh.
Then I woke up. The sound had been real. Laura's heart was so loud, it felt like it would rupture my eardrums,
Oh
and I
my
screamed
God,
in
dude.
agony, trying to cover my ears. It was useless. It was coming from some deep place inside me.
Right.
I could feel it reverberating around the hollows of my chest. I stumbled out of bed, gasping for air, and tried to find my phone. I needed to call someone, anyone, an ambulance or my mom, anyone that would pick up. "Get out!" It was a faint whisper over the hammering thumbs of Laura's heart, a low guttural voice that sounded like it had been made by an animal, and I crawled to the door, down the hallway, choking on my screams for help. My neighbor opened the door, his eyes as wide as saucers as the sight of me on the floor clutching my chest.
Really?
He drove me to the hospital as I cried in the passenger seat of his car. After about 50 different checkups, the doctors told me that absolutely nothing was wrong with me.
It's crazy.
They told me my heart was regular, my blood pressure was normal, and that everything was going just swimmingly.
It gotta be something in your
I
head,
stood
girl.
in the waiting area, wallowing in my shame and frustration.
You know, this is such a traumatic experience. Like, the people that give an organ for a transplant, like they're going anyway, right? And they feel like a heart transplant, you can't live without one. You're giving it to someone because it's a good part of you, and it's a selfless act to do that. But as the recipient for something like this, especially with that interaction that she had with her mom, it's gotta be like very, very, very heavy-handed, you know, like crazy to think about how hard that would be to process. If you're feeling guilty or self-conscious, your mind could do some crazy things to make you hear and experience things that are just not real, you know? I mean, they're real, they're apparent to you. Like, everything that you perceive in your brain is real to you. But being that the doctors are telling her heart is fine, it has to be something in her head. And you know, if you think about scary stuff, your heart can react to it, you know? Your blood pressure will rise, you can start sweating and getting nervous, things like that. It's like fear, you know? How weird, dude.
That heart didn't belong to me.
Well,
The
no.
phone buzzed on the counter. An unknown number. Great. That was all I needed. More unexplained, scary things, like a stranger on the end of the phone. My voice sounded small on the line. Hello? Good morning. This is the Thames Valley Police. We've called to report an incident that occurred in your flat around 1:30 a.m. today.
Okay.
I felt a wave of embarrassment. I'm so sorry. I recently had surgery, and I wasn't feeling well. I had to have my neighbor drive me to the hospital, and I think I panicked a little in the hallway before I left.
Okay.
There was a small silence on the other end of the phone. I'm afraid this is something you might want to be sitting down for. I felt Laura's heartbeats, strong and calm. There was an incident of forced entry by Mr. Samuel Matthews. According to our police records, he's your ex-partner, and you filed a restraining order against him in September 2017.
Wait, what?
My blood ran cold. I did. He's in police custody.
Oh,
We found an automatic weapon on him, and we believe he had the intent to harm you. We have an officer currently stationed at your flat who can fill you in depending on how long your hospital stay will be.
whoa.
I thanked him and hung up the phone.
Whoa.
For a moment, I leaned against the wall,
Laura.
horror slowly spreading over me. If I had been in my flat 10 minutes later, he would have found me. Laura's heartbeats
heart.
filled my ears again, but now they were gentle, calm.
It kept her safe.
Her mother said she dedicated every part of her to helping those who needed it.
Yeah.
I put both my hands on my chest, overwhelmed by my own gratitude, and listened to Laura.
Wow. Oh, that hit. That hit so hard, dude, when I finally realized what was going on. Old girl's heart reacted to where it scared her enough to get the hell out of there. That's what happened, because there was something about her, that force. Maybe it was her upstairs, you know, watching out for her like a guardian angel. That's so crazy, dude. What a great story, man. MJV Animations, guys. Make sure to check him out. There's a couple of other reaction videos that I did from him. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time. Break it down.